So today's video is about narcissistic relationships, and the title very much implies what we're covering. We're talking about romantic relationships or even friendships in which one of the person is a narcissist. Now, if you've watched my content before, narcissism is a subject I cover very often, okay? And a narcissist is someone who basically only uses other people for themselves. They can't see outside themselves. There's very much a lack of empathy, right? And there's very much an inflated sense of self or a high ego, okay? Everyone purely exists just to serve the needs of the narcissist. And when you can't inflate their ego or serve their needs, right, you will be discarded or you will not serve a purpose to them, okay? So it's actually interesting. Narcissists, especially in romantic relationships, oftentimes won't get with other narcissists. Now, why is that? Well, the narcissist uses the relationship to inflate their own ego, right? And to have control over another person, okay? And so to be in a relationship with another narcissist, that person would also be too consumed with themselves and their own needs. So the narcissist has to find someone who is codependent, who derives their own value by meeting someone else's needs. And the narcissist exploits this person and uses them to get all their needs gratified, to inflate their ego. And when they no longer serve a purpose to the narcissist, they will discard them. Now, these relationships are difficult because we can fall into them, right? Especially if we have weak and poor boundaries. But these relationships come into our lives oftentimes to expose childhood wounds that we have not addressed. The narcissist is basically a wrecking ball that falls into our lives and implodes and brings everything up to the surface that was hidden in the subconscious mind that we didn't want to deal with, okay? And what's really interesting about being in a relationship with a narcissistic person is that they do follow very similar patterns. So, what are these stages? Well, the narcissist looks at other people as something to conquer or something to win over. All right? It's not about an actual deep connection or appreciating for someone as they are. So the first stage is going to be the love bombing stage, right? So when you're with this person, initially, you're going to feel very special. It's going to be a high. It's almost like this addiction. This is because the narcissist is assessing and figuring out what you need, what would get you, what would win you over. And they begin mirroring you. They go overboard to display their value, to show how special you can feel, right? And so they're basically plugging these wounds that you have. They figure out where your holes are and they fix them and they meet them, right? Their whole prerogative is to win you over. And once they do that, we hit the devalue stage. This will oftentimes be very subtle. And this is oftentimes what we call the stage of red flags. You'll start getting put downs. You'll start getting a little bit of gaslighting, meaning, your reality is coming into question. Something will happen and they say, oh, no, that didn't happen. Then they start withdrawing physical and emotional intimacy. Basically, at this point, they're trying to gain control over you, okay? They want you to feel like a burden, all right? And it's subtle. But slowly what they're doing is they are creating a dependency on the narcissist. They are wearing you down to feel like you need the narcissist, okay? You need them. Now, the final stage is typically the discard stage. Now, this doesn't mean that they just get rid of you. No. But what they are doing is they are trying to establish and hit your deepest, most severe wound, right? So, if you have abandonment issues, they will leave for a time, right? They will commit severe, egregious emotional abuse upon you, okay? They may even force you in a situation where you have no choice but to leave. Basically, the discard stage happens when you oftentimes begin to challenge them, when you begin to pick up, when you begin to stand up for yourself. They will want to bring down the full wrecking ball to squash you, to make you to basically obliterate your individual autonomy. The narcissist wants to create full dependence upon them. They want you to derive your full worth from meeting every one of their needs. And if you don't, they will get rid of you and they will test that dependence upon them. okay? And so these stages, we will often cycle through them, right? Once they discard you, maybe it's for another person who inflates your ego more, right? Then they want to bring you back, and then they will idealize and love bomb you again. They will go and they will recycle through these stages and say, oh, I made a mistake, you're so amazing, you're so perfect. And then they'll go through it all over again. These relationships are predictable. So, what are some signs that you have a narcissistic partner? Well, they're superficially charming and charismatic. There's not a lot of emotional depth to them. But they're very charming, right? They always seem to say the right thing. They're also deeply concerned about external image, status, prestige, right? Sometimes they will use the relationship, right, as a way to inflate their external image, right? If you're very good looking, they will highly sexualize you. They will want to show you off, right? Or they will use someone for money and status in that nature, right? So basically, they are very concerned about projecting external image. In the relationship, they may start treating you poorly, but when you go out with friends, they're oftentimes performing for them. And you may have friends come and say, oh my God, your partner's so great, right? They are creating an external image. They also do not accept responsibility for the actions if it does not serve them, right? Even if they are wrong, they will find a way to put it on you. They will also always invalidate your emotions and feelings, okay? In the idealization stage, they may not, but as they move through the relationship, anytime you express a feeling or being hurt, you'll be regarded as just being overly sensitive, or you're too much, or you're taking it the wrong way. They will not validate how you're actually feeling in a situation, because then that means they would also have to accept responsibility. They also do not respect boundaries, right? If you assert a boundary, they will barrel through it. They do not acknowledge it, and they will not accept it. And at the same time, you know you have a narcissistic partner is if everything somehow relates back to them. No matter the conversation topic, no matter what is being dealt with, they will always insert themselves or some scenario in their life back into it, right? They cannot be just removed from any conversation or anything. Somehow, they're impacted by it. So, narcissists are more likely to prey on certain types of people, okay? So, how do we know that we are possibly susceptible to a narcissistic partner? Well, narcissists oftentimes go for someone who can offer what they can't, right? But it also is a person who lacks a sense of self, who may be codependent, right? Who derives their value, as we talked about, from meeting someone else's needs. Oftentimes, we are susceptible to bringing in a narcissistic relationship if we had a narcissistic parent or caretaker, because we are always looking to create the familiar from childhood, even if it is not healthy for us, right? Our nervous systems, our minds don't do well with the unfamiliar. So if you have a narcissistic partner, you are just more likely unconsciously to call that type of relationship back into your life. Also, if you have poor boundaries with other people, narcissists will absolutely pick up on this and want to exploit you, okay? They do not like boundaries. They also want someone who is highly empathetic and very caring. They want someone who displays the attributes that they don't have, right? So they want to be cared for. They want to be a victim. They want you, right? They want to soak up your empathy and all that energy from you, okay? So poor boundaries and very caring is a recipe to bring in a narcissistic partner. Also, as we talked about, a tendency to people please. Okay, once again, you feel like you have to make everyone feel good to the point where you're ignoring your own needs and you're ignoring your own sense of self. This very much calls in a narcissist because they know that you won't ever direct attention to yourself and will constantly worry about meeting their needs and what they want. And also, if you have an addiction to chaos, meaning that you grow up in kind of a chaotic household where you don't know how to be calm and still, the narcissistic partner will fulfill this need of a chaotic relationship, of these insane up and downs, these highs and these lows, right? If you are searching this out, the narcissist will very much come in and fill this need. If you have a difficulty with peace and calmness and just being serene, you are much more likely to call in a chaotic relationship. And don't get me wrong, a relationship with a narcissist is chaotic. If you find yourself in a relationship with a narcissist, though they can heal, it's oftentimes very unlikely, especially if they hit all the symptoms of having narcissistic personality disorder. So what is oftentimes the best is to gray rock them, meaning being as interesting as a gray rock, not getting an emotional charge out of them, and slowly finding a way to leave the relationship, okay? Even as difficult as it is. Also, to make sure you don't call these relationships in, you have to do the inner shadow work. You have to address these issues. You have to derive an internal sense of self. You have to feel enough just because you're here and you're a person, not because you can meet someone else's needs. I hope this video provided clarity. If you have any questions for me, please leave a comment below and make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. All right, thank you guys.